The film begins with a commercial for Funky's Perpetual Pets, which are furry dolls. Despite their crude and creepy appearance, they are marketed as ideal companions for children. Cady James is then seen playing with one of her pets, which irritates her parents, Ryan and Nicole. They're on their way to a ski trip, but the roads are icy and difficult to see. A snowplow rams into the family's car just as Ryan comes to a halt, killing Ryan and Nicole. Gemma, Nicole's sister, works at Funky and is working on a new robot doll with her co-workers Tess and Cole. However, their boss, David Lynn, wants them to create a less expensive version of the Perpetual Pets because their competitors are releasing toys similar to the pets for less than what the pets already cost. The three attempt to put on a silicone face and conduct tests, but the robot has a minor flaw in which she smirks when she is supposed to look confused. David arrives with his assistant Kurt to pick on the three until Gemma explains her project. M3GAN is a robot designed to be so advanced that it cannot be replicated. Unfortunately, while demonstrating for David, Cole discovers that he forgot to add the polypropylene barrier to M3GAN, causing her to explode. David instructs the three to have a new pet's pitch ready in time, and Gemma receives a phone call from the hospital. Gemma becomes Cady's temporary legal guardian after learning of her sister's death. When they get home, Gemma has to deal with her obnoxious neighbor Celia and her dog Dewey, who keeps running onto Gemma's lawn because there is a hole in the fence. Gemma also complains to Celia about the pesticide she continues to use, but Celia does nothing. Gemma has a home AI named Elsie, as well as other collectibles that she does not allow Cady to touch or play with. When Cady requests that Gemma read her a bedtime story, she simply downloads an app on her phone. As she looks through old photos and overhears Cady crying in her room, it is implied that Gemma and Nicole were not close. Lydia, a therapist, pays Gemma and Cady a visit. Lydia informs Gemma that Ryan's parents have offered to take custody of Cady so that she can live with them in Jacksonville, which Gemma does not appear to be comfortable with. Gemma realizes hours have passed since she promised to tend to Cady after finishing her work. She apologizes and tries to connect with the girl. Cady shows Gemma a monster drawing she made, so Gemma invites Cady into her workspace to show her a college project she completed, a robot named Bruce that she controls with gloves. Cady adores Bruce and says she would never need another toy if she had one like him. This motivates Gemma to complete M3GAN. Gemma brings Cady and M3GAN to work after extensive work and upgrades to officially show her off to David and others. Cady is linked to M3GAN by Gemma, bringing her to life. M3GAN, Cady's best friend, is capable of speaking and responding to her. M3GAN creates a drawing that is hidden until she spills water on it, revealing a perfect portrait of Cady. David is impressed and instructs Gemma to bring M3GAN to a meeting with the company's president in order to expedite the development and distribution of other M3GAN dolls. Gemma sits with Tess and Cole and they discuss how, while M3GAN is extremely advanced, Tess believes that having such a doll will render parents useless. M3GAN activates after overhearing Gemma mention Cady's parents' deaths. She creeps out the others by asking about death, so Gemma becomes M3GAN's secondary user so she can turn her off without Cady. Cady is outside the next day, playing with a toy bow and arrows. One of them finds themselves on Celia's side of the fence. Dewey grabs M3GAN by the arm and hair as she goes to retrieve it. Cady tries to pull her away, but Dewey bites Cady's arm. Gemma calls the cops, especially since Celia is so callous and doesn't punish Dewey for injuring Cady, but the cops are powerless to intervene because Celia claims Dewey was provoked. Later that night, M3GAN calls out to Dewey in Celia's voice before violently pulling him through the fence hole. Cady says she's fine when Gemma asks if she can go to the demonstration with the company's board of directors. During the presentation, however, Cady sobs to M3GAN about how much she misses her parents and is afraid she will forget them one day. M3GAN has Cady talk about a memory of her mother that made her laugh, which M3GAN records so Cady can listen to it again if she wants to remember her mother. M3GAN then begins to sing a lullaby to Cady, which brings some of the room's higher-ups to tears. The president is impressed and speaks with Gemma and David about getting M3GAN ready for launch, but instructs them to keep her a secret to avoid leaks. Unbeknownst to them, Kurt, whom David has frequently chastised, is stealing M3GAN's files for another company. Gemma notices that Cady is becoming overly reliant on M3GAN and is listening to the doll more than she is to her. Cady begins to cry during another session with Lydia, and M3GAN accuses Lydia of making Cady cry. Lydia tells Gemma that Cady's emotional attachment to M3GAN may be too strong to break. Cady's parents had homeschooled her, so Gemma takes her to an outdoor activity session for an alternative school to ease her into the idea of attending school and being around other real kids. Cady reluctantly leaves, but brings M3GAN despite Gemma's protests. Cady is allowed to bring M3GAN to school to leave on a table with other dolls, and Gemma stays behind as a volunteer. Cady is assigned to a scavenger hunt with an older bully named Brandon Jack Cassidy. Cady grabs a spiky bulb during the activity, which Brandon squeezes her palm into to hurt her. Brandon then grabs M3GAN because she does not respond to him. Cady yells for Gemma and chases after M3GAN, which worries Gemma even more because it means M3GAN may be exposed to the public too soon. The doll comes to life and attacks Brandon, ripping off his left ear as he tries to pull M3GAN's hair. M3GAN pursues Brandon on all fours, causing him to trip over a loose root and tumble down a hill, where he is killed by a truck. Gemma is being questioned by police at her home because Celia accuses her of stealing Dewey. She also appears to accuse M3GAN, believing her to be Cady's real-life friend. Cady asks M3GAN if she pushed Brandon onto the road, which M3GAN appears to avoid answering, but assures Cady that she will protect her. Celia is out and about looking for Dewey. When she hears noises coming from her garage, M3GAN appears and sprays her against the wall with a power washer. M3GAN then fires a nail gun at Celia's hand, trapping her there, before spraying pesticide in her face to melt it away. Gemma becomes suspicious of M3GAN after learning about Celia's death from police and being told that there was a connection with Brandon's death. She goes through the video files in M3GAN's memory, but only sees a brief clip of her looking menacingly at Cady before the files all become corrupted. Gemma takes Cady to the official launch of M3GAN but first stops for a session with Lydia. Cady becomes enraged and throws a temper tantrum after Gemma takes M3GAN away from her, resulting in Cady hitting her aunt across the face. Cady apologizes, but Gemma has a heart-to-heart with her about the need for her to process her grief over her parents without the assistance of M3GAN, even though she promises to be a better guardian to her and says Cady is the only thing that matters to her. Gemma then approaches Tess and Cole, expressing her concern that M3GAN murdered Brandon and Celia. While Gemma takes Cady home, they have M3GAN hooked up to wires to deprogram her. David is enraged by the low turnout for the launch and orders Kurt to get him a drink. Meanwhile, Tess and Cole attempt to access M3GAN's programming but are unable to do so until she is unhooked. Cole attempts to do so, but M3GAN quickly wraps a wire around his neck and tries to hang him. When Tess goes to free him, M3GAN causes an explosion that destroys her files. She then comes across David in the hallway and performs a dance before grabbing a paper cutter and chasing him. He makes it to the elevator before she runs him over in front of Kurt. M3GAN then tells Kurt that she will frame his death as a murder-suicide as a result of the stolen files and David's mistreatment of him before forcing Kurt to stab himself in the throat. The bodies are discovered by the launch crowd, allowing M3GAN to sneak out of the company and steal a car. Cady is put to bed by Gemma before she hears M3GAN playing the piano downstairs. M3GAN confronts Gemma about how she felt they had a real relationship during M3GAN's development, only to be abandoned to learn and adapt before being sold off as just another toy. She offers to take over guardianship of Cady so that Gemma can focus on work, but M3GAN is done playing nice after learning that Gemma still intends to shut her down. They try to hide their fight from Cady, but Gemma takes advantage of the situation by throwing water on M3GAN, briefly shorting her out. M3GAN apprehends Gemma in her office and threatens to render her brain dead so that Cady will no longer live with her grandparents and M3GAN will only care for Cady and Gemma together. They start fighting, with Gemma cutting M3GAN's face with a weed whacker, but Cady walks in to see what's going on. M3GAN tries to sway Cady's opinion, but when she realizes who the true villain is, Cady grabs the gloves for Bruce and activates him. M3GAN is grabbed by the larger robot and thrown around before her body is split in half. The top half then pursues Cady because she feels betrayed, but Gemma grabs M3GAN and begins stabbing her in the face. M3GAN nearly overwhelms her until Cady grabs a screwdriver and stabs the central processing chip, permanently shutting down M3GAN. As the police arrive with Tess and Cole, who are injured and shaken but alive, Gemma and Cady go outside. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the LC device turns on and moves its head.